Hey everyone, Piano Man Chuck here, and what I have with me today are two of the latest Casio pianos here, and what I have is in front of me the Casio Privia PX-560. Comes in a great metallic blue color, and what I also have behind this is the Casio CGP-700, or CGP standing for Compact Grand Piano. This video is focused more on, let's say I have the CGP-700 right here in front of me, which I do, and the PX-360. You're going to pretend both of those are the same thing right in front of me, okay? And the PX-560. So, we're going to go through these wonderful 5.3-inch touchscreens to see what the differences are between the CGP-700 slash Privia PX-360 and the PX-560. So if you're looking at the touchscreens on each one of these, you'll notice they start out the same way. And if we go to the second screen parameters over here, you'll notice that there's 3 extra icons on the PX-560, and that being Arpeggiator, Registration, and Equalizer, which you don't have on the CGP-700. So let's go back to the main screen on each one of those. Alright, so let's start out with tone. Tone is where you pick what kind of voices or sounds or patches or whatever you want to call them, they're all the same thing, that you want. So let's press tone on each one of these, CGP-700, PX-560, and you'll notice that they look kind of the same. Alright, you've got your upper 2 choices and your lower 2 choices. You've got octaves and that kind of thing. You got auto harmonize, you got duet, you got split, but you have arpeggiator on the PX560, which you don't have on the other models. Now you have one arpeggiator here, and it's a really cool thing. We're not going to get into that right now. We're just going to get into the differences between these models. One more thing that you have over here on the PX560, you've got this edit button over here. You don't have that on any of the other models. So when you press edit, you can go ahead and edit all the different parameters of whatever that upper 1 tone that you selected is. Pitch, filter, amp, effect, LFO, portamento, pan, and so on and so forth. Depends on what tone that you have selected, and that's going to affect what you can alter over here. Alright, so let's go back to the main menu on each one of these. The second one in line is rhythm, and they look pretty much the same over here, so that's pretty much the same. We're going to go back to the main menu again, and I am just going through this at the surface level. I'm not going to go into any depth on each one of these. Balance. This is where you set your levels for everything. So over here, it looks like you've got the same thing for balance on each one of these, but you'll notice that you have a line in volume on the PX560. You don't have that on the CGP-700, because you do have line inputs on this. You don't have that on the CGP-700. Okay, going back to the menus again, effects. Alright, so you look at the effects over here, and on the CGP-700, the effects screen, you've got brilliance, reverb type, chorus type, delay type, damper noise. Over here, you've got all that kind of stuff, but you also have master comp edit, master EQ edit, acoustic simulator, and you go into a second stage for sys effects bypass, master effects bypass, and DSP bypass. So there's a little bit more to control over here. For the Midi Recorder, it's pretty much the same thing. It is an identical Midi Recorder. This is where you get into your 17-track sequencer. Audio recorder. Again, pretty much the same thing. I don't have a USB stick or thumb drive plugged into either one of these, so it says no media, but trust me, it's pretty much the same. Music presets on each one of these. So you're going to see pretty much something that's identical over here. The difference being that you can actually edit the presets on the PX-560, which you cannot do on the CGP-700. System settings. Okay, so the first thing you do when you turn one of these things on is you want to turn the speakers off if you're running into a external amplifier with your line outputs or a mixer or whatever. If you're just playing it with the instrument by itself, that's fine. You want to keep it the way it is to keep the internal speakers on. Okay, so touch response, touch off velocity, metronome beat, accompaniment freeze. Okay, and then you get into tuning and temperament. Temperament bass note. Accompaniment temperament, stretch tuning, brightness. Operation lock, auto resume, auto power off, factory reset, but you also have your pedal calibration and you have information over here. So you don't have that on the CGP-700, but the expression pedal calibration, you don't have expression pedals on either of the other models below the PX-560. So this is where you calibrate your expression pedal. And expression was a really important thing. The flagship model, the PX5S, for some reason omitted the expression pedal. They put that into the PX560. So now you have that, and that is a really cool thing to have. All right, so going back again to the main menu. You get to the controllers, and you're going to see a little bit of a difference. All right, so on the PX560, you've got these knobs labeled K1, K2, K3, which stands for knob 1, knob 2, knob 3. By default, they are EQ, bass, mid-range, and treble, or EQ low, mid, and high. All right, you don't have that on any of the other models. And these knobs are also programmable, so you can make them control whatever you want them to control. But as far as the CGP-700 goes, you've got control over these controllers: upper 1 pedal, upper 2 pedal, lower 1 pedal, lower 2 pedal, and bend range. Well, you've got all that here too, but you also have knob 1, knob 2, knob 3 edit, modulation edit, pedal edit, pedal type, pedal mode, upper 1, upper 2, lower 1, and lower 2 pedal, bend range, and that's pretty much it as far as the controllers go. mixer. And we find that that's pretty much the same thing. Midi section. All right, you got keyboard channel, accompaniment out, chord judge, high resolution, velocity out, local control, MIDI out through. Now, like I said, and we're not going to get into the technicalities of all this. We're just going to compare the different models. So if you'll notice over here on the CGP-700, it's just one page worth of MIDI controls. Here, there's a second page MIDI import. Okay, but basically you have all the other things too. Of course, I don't have any media hooked up to either one of these, so you're going to get no media. But this is where you're able to insert your USB thumb drive or whatever you have, and you'll be able to record your performance as a WAV file onto your USB thumb drive or whatever you have, and then transfer that to your computer and do whatever you want with it at that point. Also notice on the PX-560, you got 3 more additional icons here: Arpeggiator, Registration, and Equalizer. The Arpeggiator, this is where you can set up your arpeggiator. Now there's 1 arpeggiator here as opposed to 4 on the PX-5S. And then there's registration. Okay, so you can set your registration to have some defaults to it, starting with your split points, your transpose, tone, rhythm, effect, system settings, controller, and mixer. So you can set those wherever you want and turn those on or off for each one of those sections, so that when you go to one of your registrations, those things will be saved. Last but not least is the equalizer. This is where you have a 4 control equalizer with low, mid 1, mid 2, and high, and you can set these however you want to match however you want your tones to sound. You can also set the input and output levels. So that's pretty much it for the differences between the 2 of these, or actually 3 of these types of digital pianos. I'm going to get into more of the PX-560. It really is a phenomenal piece of equipment. You can do a lot of stuff with it. The main thing that separates this from the other models like the CGP-700 and the PX-360 is this has hex layers. And I'm going to get into that in a separate video because that is such a cool thing to get into. Hex meaning 6, layers meaning up to 6 layers for a particular tone. And while I want to touch on that right now, I gotta save that for another video because that is just an awesome thing to get into. Piano Man Chuck, peace out. Thanks for watching.